Hello, everyone's Forest Focus as Nottingham Forest prepare to take on a Fulham team that beat the Reds at the City Ground in a pretty miserable game earlier in the season. Will it be different in the return fixture, though? Joining to give his take is Russ Goldman, host of the Cottage Talk podcast. Russ, good to have you back with us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Matt. Late night for you last night. I actually look forward to talking to you about this, and we have a lot to talk about in regards to this match.
Yes, definitely. I'm pretty tired. It was we were recording this Wednesday night to go out Friday. So this is the third one of the podcasts I've done today, but I am looking forward to talking to Ross, turning the page on Exeter and getting into Fulham. Just interested to hear about your season. Obviously, like I say, you beat us in the first game in a pretty weird game where I thought you played well and we were pretty horrible. What about your season overall? You're ninth, 36 points in 24 games, 11 behind Forest. How do you view it in general, Russ?
Well, it's interesting because I remember doing your show months ago, and I told you my thoughts on what I was predicting. I actually predicted the beginning of the season for Fulham to be seventh. So I will tell you right now that I actually think Fulham are underachieving, and I know that might sound strange, but I look at Nottingham Forest, who are playing fantastic, doing a wonderful job, very good season so far for your club, and you deserve it. You absolutely deserve it. Bournemouth are doing the same. I think Fulham should have many more points than they do, but the difference with Fulham's season is that the way I look at it, and we can certainly get into this, is that Fulham have struggled a little bit at Craven Cottage. I'll mention that right off the bat, and they've also played down to their competition. So when they play teams that are at the bottom or even mid-table, they've struggled more against teams that are their equal or above them. That's where they have risen to the occasion. So it's been a very interesting season. I actually listen. Overall, I have to be happy that they're ninth, Matt. But I'm telling you right now, I think that they should be higher than they are, and that's strange to say.
I was looking at some of the recent results. I saw the game against Man United, and it
Yep,
was so bad. You
horrible.
drew you drew with Ipswich, you lost to West Ham, but then you go to Newcastle, who are doing really well, and you pick up a win there. Is that a little bit symptomatic of your season? Then this recent run?
I think it totally just shows what's going on with Fulham. You talked about Manchester United and the West Ham matches, and that basically just shows you all you need to know because in both of these matches, I would say Fulham are better without the ball, Matt. And that's what makes this matchup very interesting because it could be two teams that basically say, no, you have the ball. No, you have the ball. Because Fulham are a very good counterattack inside. So when they are the team that is being the team to ask the questions, I think that they can struggle when teams basically are set up defensively to stop them from playing. I think Manchester United did that. I would say West Ham did that to a point. Fulham actually just made these terrible errors. And again, the Manchester United match was terrible. But then on the flip side, they go to St. James's Park and they basically a tale of two halves, but they didn't play badly in the first half. I think the second half showed how good they can be because they were dominant in the second half. So I just think that they're a team that plays to who the competition is when they're playing against a really top side. For whatever reason, they're up for the challenge. But when it's a team that's below them, they struggle to break them down.
How do fans view that then? I know you're in the States, so
Yeah,
you're not going to games, but I'm sure you interact with fans
I do.
online. Fulham fans have to pay an absolute fortune for tickets as well.
Oh,
It seems it's pretty scandalous from afar. Are the fans happy with what they're seeing, or are they expecting a little bit more then?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think obviously you're happy with where you are because you're saying, okay, ninth is very good to be. But I think that they're also seeing the missed opportunities. Like you said, losing to Manchester United twice, Matt, you shouldn't be losing to Manchester United, this version of Manchester United. And oh, by the way, we play them in the FA Cup at Old Trafford. And if they lose three times, shame on Fulham because that is a poor Manchester United team. So I think that they see situations like that against West Ham. West Ham at home when they're dropping points. Ipswich Town, Southampton at home. I mean, these are points that they've dropped. I think that's what's frustrating. When I looked at the when I looked at the table and I looked at our teams and I looked at the differences, right? Because we talk a lot about your team, and I could tell you that myself and my co-host, we're admiring what you're doing. We truly are. We're like, well, why can't Fulham be more like Nottingham Forest? And I think it comes down to two things. It comes down to your defense and your players up front. Chris Wood, you have a prolific goal scorer up there, and we have two strikers that are good strikers but aren't prolific. But you have a defense that is just very hard to break down. I actually watched back this morning the Brighton Hove Albion match, and they couldn't do anything against you. We struggled a little bit against Brighton Hove Albion, even though we beat them. And I could just say, okay, this is going to be a very hard match for Fulham breaking down your club, because that's how good you looked against Brighton Hove Albion, a team that I have a lot of respect for. So for me, I think fans are not, I wouldn't say disappointed is a strong word. I think that they just want more. But when you get down to the ticket prices, I'm glad that you brought that up. This is something that has been brewing, and I think it's not going away. Fans are very upset about the ticket prices.
Yeah, I see. I don't know. I can't remember the exact figures, but they're extortionate. I know London has a levy, but it's pretty mad what Fulham fans are having to pay. 150 quid a game and stuff like that. It's nuts. Yeah, it's a good point you raised. Hadn't we thought about it? Our record against the bottom half is like exceptional. We haven't really dropped
ours
points
is terrible
against anyone. Yeah, and that's probably the 11 points between us, and it's probably those are the 11 points you'll find there. So yeah, on this game, I mean, I think it's going to be a really close one again, isn't it? Feels like we've traded wins and traded decent results against each other.
Yeah.
Where's this one going to be decided for you then?
Well, I think actually where it's going to be decided will be in central midfield. Now, in the last match, what's interesting is you did not have Morgan Gibbs-White, a player that I fear a great deal. Fantastic player. However, Fulham at that point were not playing Sander Berge along with Sasa Lukic, and I think that makes a huge difference in Fulham's central midfield. So I'm fascinated to see about what happens with Morgan Gibbs-White being inserted into your central midfield and Berge being inserted into our central midfield, because I think that's where the match is going to be won. Who can take control? Who can protect their back four? Who can attack? Like in your case with Morgan Gibbs-White, can you beat Fulham on the counter? I watched a lot of that in that Brighton Hove Albion match, and how can Fulham basically withstand that? Because I see that as a huge threat against Fulham. So, but I think it's really going to come down to who wins the central midfield battle.
Let's talk a bit more about your team then. You started the season with a back four. You've been playing a back three, I see. What are you expecting on Saturday? A back three, a back four? How do you think you're going to line up?
Well, we changed to a back three about, I want to say 10 matches ago. And it was out of, at that point, necessity. They changed things up, and then I would say for the past 3 or 4 matches, we've gone back to a back four. So I am expecting a back four. It worked against Chelsea, so then Marco decided to do it again and again, and with diminishing returns. So then he went back to just a regular back four. So I am expecting a back four, and I'm expecting to see Anderson and Bassi play along with, it's going to be Timothy Castagna because Kenny Tete is out, and then Robinson on the left as your back four.
That's a good back four. I mean, I think we spoke about Bassi at the start of the season, how I think he seems to really won me over, and he looks an accomplished player. It's a good balance of a back four, isn't it?
Yeah, he's been excellent. The only thing that I will mention is that Kenny Tete has had a fantastic season, and then he got injured, and he might be coming back at the end of the season. And it's funny because me and my co-host talked about before the season that we wanted Castagna to be the starting right back. We thought he was the better player, but Tete came in, and Castagna was out on international duty, and basically he won the spot over the summer. He won that spot. So, and then Tete just ran with it. He basically just, the levels of that position were raised, and Castagna has done a nice job, but they're completely different players. Tete is more of an attacking right back, whereas Castagna is more of a defensive right back. So it's just a different look to Fulham. But also wanted Diop to start over Anderson. Anderson's been hit or miss pretty much the entire season, but he will go with Anderson and Anderson and Bassey. And Bassey's been fantastic.
Just before I ask Russ about the midfield, because I want to get his thoughts on a
Sure.
couple of areas there. Just a word for the Trent navigation. Loads of events coming up in Sunday, including a bank holiday reggae special all day. That is on Sunday, March the 4th. There's lots on all through the day, as you can see. Search gigantic.com for tickets, or just scan the QR code on your screen if you're watching on YouTube. But do check that out. And like I said, there's loads coming up, and there's also the Fun Boy Tour back after the Man City game. I see. So the midfield, I was such a huge fan of João Palhinha. I'm sure I've said that to you. Lukic didn't seem the most obvious replacement. I'm not sure he is the replacement. You can tell me about it, but he seems to have come in and have a good season.
He's been excellent, Matt. And but what's really transpired is that Lukic isn't doing it alone. When we played you the last time, it was Lukic and Pereira. And at that point, Sander Berge wasn't really up to full fitness, and I don't think Marco trusted him to play along with Lukic. And basically, it's taken two players to take the place of Palhinha, but they complement each other very well. And they basically work together. They can switch off who's going forward, who stays back, or they can both protect. But the combination of the two of them has taken the place of Palhinha. It's taken two players, and both have been fantastic. I will tell you right now that Berge has really been very impressive, but Lukic can be up for player of the season. So for me, that's why I went with that being such a key to the match, is basically the two of them.
What's happening with Pereira? Does he want out? It looked like he wanted to move for ages. He's still there, obviously. Are fans had enough of him?
Well, he is the player that divides the supporters. So we'll just leave it at that. I'm one that actually wanted to sell him in January. So I'm on that fence. Others still believe that he has this value, because if you look at the statistics for Pereira, it looks very impressive. But I watch all the matches, and I'm telling you right now that his set pieces have been poor throughout the season, but there have been moments where they've been good. In the last match, they were good. But I think overall, Pereira has been a little bit of a liability, because they moved him to the number 8 position before Berge was inserted in that position along with Lukic. And he just could not handle that position because they put Smith Rowe in the number 10. So for me, Pereira should not be starting against Nottingham Forest. I would go with Smith Rowe, but it's a topic that we talk about almost every week on Cottage Talk is Pereira. It divides the supporters like right down the middle.
Smith Rowe, he started the season in my fantasy league team, and he drifted out of it. It seems like he's been a bit in and out. Has he improved of late?
He's improved of late, Matt. But again, a player that has come with a huge price tag, and when you come to a team, any team with that type of price tag, the expectations are going to be high. And I think it's taken him a while to fit into Marco's systems. He was brought in to play the number 10 role. Let's just call it what it is. And I think that the problem that they were having with him is that he was not doing the defensive part of the game that Marco wants him to do. So you could see that at times he was lost in matches. And I think just even most recently, I think he's finally taken to doing what Marco needs him to do and be a complete number 10, not just an offensive number 10, but a defensive number 10, doing the pressing that Marco wants him to do. But I think also during this period of time, I think he lost some confidence in himself and was not being as aggressive as we need him to be. I think he was playing with fear. We need him to play with no fear. So I expect next season to be the season where you really see the true Emile Smith Rowe, but it has been hit or miss, but recently it's been more hits.
On the wide options as well. Iwobi looks like he's had a really good season. So I guess he's one. Who's the other winger on Saturday?
It's going to be Traore. It's going to be, yes, it's going to be Iwobi and Traore. I expect the both of them because unfortunately Fulham have dealt with a few injuries. Reece Nelson, we thought could potentially be back for this match, but then picked up an injury on his other leg, and I don't think we will see him again with Fulham this season based on what I've been hearing. And then Harry Wilson got injured, and we don't expect him to near the end of the season, which is a loss because Harry Wilson was playing excellent. But I'm here to tell you, I think that Traore, underrated with Fulham this season, has played well. So having the two of them, I don't think there's a huge drop-off. In my opinion, Iwobi's been Fulham's player of the season. But I think he's tired out a little bit. So the fact that he didn't really play too much in the Wigan Athletic match, I think is a good thing because he has played at such a high level. So when his level has dropped a little bit, it's been noticeable, but he has been tremendous for Fulham this season.
Yeah, Traore is one of those players. He's got a 10 out of 10 performance in him. You just don't know where it's going to show up. So
exactly
on Saturday.
Exactly.
Hopefully on Saturday for us. Just lastly on the strikers, Jimenez versus Muniz. Jimenez seems to have nailed it down, but Muniz seems to get goals off the bench. So will they just stick with Jimenez starting on that basis?
Absolutely. And it's funny because Rodrigo Muniz just scored 2 goals against Wigan Athletic. But I'm telling you, it's going to be Jimenez. He's won the position. Muniz started this season as the striker, and we're struggling. And the one thing that I think Fulham supporters have learned about him is that, yes, he had this massive purple patch last season, which was fantastic. But I think he's also a player that's a confidence player. He needs to score goals, and when he doesn't, he really struggles. And we started to see that at the beginning of the season. So Marco made the switch, and it worked because Jimenez has been pretty consistent throughout the season. But what's good is that you have Muniz now coming off the bench and scoring goals consistently. So I think that they feed off of each other. If you're asking me, I wanted a prolific goal scorer. They've never been able to replace a Mitrovic-level player. That's what I've wanted. But these two can do a job. They're just not that type of player. They're not Chris Wood. And I think that's something that we talk a lot about on Cottage Talk. They don't have that player that every match is saying he's going to score. Not that Chris Wood scores every goal, but he's the type of player that you have to game plan for. Jimenez is a nice, good player. He does a job, but I don't know how much Nuno is going to be worrying about stopping Jimenez. I think there are other players he's going to be worried about. But I'm pretty sure that Marco Silva is going to be worried about stopping Chris Wood.
You mentioned Wood, you mentioned Gibbs White. Just before we let you go, any other players of ours that particularly worry you?
Those were the two that really concerned me in this match. I actually will mention a couple of players that might play wing backs against Fulham that played for Fulham, and that would be Nico Williams and Ola Aina. They concern me because I think they're going to be dangerous in this match. Again, listen, I saw what happened against Brighton Hove Albion, and that's what makes me think that there might be a different formation for you guys this time around because I thought it was very effective. So they actually concern me in this match.
You watched the Exeter game as well, you were saying, but you don't think that's going to be a factor beyond a few of our players. 4 or 5 played a lot of minutes that we didn't want them to, but otherwise you don't think it's an issue?
No, I don't, Matt, because I think, first of all, as I said to you off air, Fulham struggled against Wigan Athletic, but they played, they made 10 changes. And I have a feeling Nuno did something somewhere. And yes, many of the starters played in extra time, but will that have a big effect in this match? Maybe a small effect, okay? It could, but I think if you just look at the result, and if Nottingham Forest supporters are concerned about the team, I would say you got to throw that one out because it's the cup. You just put it aside and just treat it as the cup. It has nothing to do with the Premier League. That's the way I look at it.
No, I think that's a good shout. If you have enjoyed this, do us a favor, hit like, hit subscribe. Do consider membership or Patreon, or just give us a lovely 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. Russ, give us a shout out for your podcast. Where can people hear your preview and your thoughts on this game more?
Sure, absolutely. You can actually follow us on X on Cottage Talk or my personal X account, which is Russ_Goldman. You can actually listen to the show on any podcast app that's out there. But I also want to mention to you can definitely subscribe to the Cottage Talk YouTube channel because I'm really pushing that and I'm trying to get the numbers up on that. So please do subscribe to the Cottage Talk YouTube channel. I would really appreciate that.
Excellent. Do that. Do that. I always enjoy talking to Russ. We shall be back. This is going out on Friday, isn't it? We shall be back straight after the game on Saturday with a post-match show, and then on Monday for more of a debrief, and then we'll look ahead to Newcastle because the games are coming thick and fast as we chase that Champions League spot. Are you going to get into Europe, do you think, then, or not?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. We've talked a lot about that, Matt, and I think it's going to be a bridge too far at this point. Now, I will say this match, I think, could change a lot. If they win this match, it's funny because we were talking about this on Cottage Talk. Whoever wins this, unless it's a draw, if it's a push, like we said, a draw, I don't know how much it does for either side. I think if you win this match, it really solidifies your chances for Champions League. If we win this, I think it then gets us truly in the mix for Europe. But I think, but even beyond us beating you, I think we would have to beat a couple of teams that maybe we're not expected to beat.
Well, I think you can do that. It's a
Well,
big open season. I think, when you look at Man City conceding goals,
Oh,
and
yeah.
Arsenal and Kai Havertz just gone down for the season.
I know.
It's only Liverpool a cut above.
I'm going to say this right now. If I'm calling my shot, I think Fulham are going to beat Liverpool. I have a good feeling about that because we match up very well. It's about matchups. And I actually think we have a very good chance of knocking them off at Craven Cottage. But we'll see. We'll see.
I think so. Well, you drew at Anfield, didn't you? So you could.
We did. We have played them tough for the past 3 seasons under Marco. Marco knows how to play against this side, so he knows his players. He's a very good tactician, just like your manager. So I think we have a decent chance of pulling off that upset.
Well, we wish you good luck for the rest of the season, apart from this one, obviously. Thanks for joining us, Russ. Have a good day, everyone. And if we don't see you tomorrow, we shall see you soon.